Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. This is going to be Prepper Dad Advice Volume 3. Um, you have to look after your own interest. Um, Prepping is not always looked upon with favor from everybody. And I ran into this particular problem at the beginning of the pandemic. And I actually had people that I know real well that I was concerned about that I asked, hey, you guys got enough stuff? Is everything good? And I was called names. I said, man, you're a fear monger. That's selfish. There's just some people that can't wrap the concept of prepping. They can't wrap their mind around it. And looking after your own self interest, that isn't selfish. That isn't bad in any way, because businesses and governments, they do it all the time, and that's just standard operating procedure. But when you do it, you're selfish. You're a fearmonger. You're somehow uh, a bad person because you looked after your own interest first. I'm going to give you two stories here, two examples. One was a good friend of mine. He taught me quite a bit about the inner workings of the business world, and he actually left a very high paying job because he couldn't handle some of the stuff that took place at that job. And he worked in the security industry at this large security firm. I'd say the name, but I don't want to get this video dinged when you mention businesses' names. That happens sometimes. But he worked for a large security firm in the late 70s and early 80s down in Houston. And worked hard, moved down there to make some money, and worked hard and got promoted a few times, moved up the ranks, and pretty soon he was overseeing multiple sites. They had multiple sites that they provided security for. And some of the higher ups got some inside information on these other sites that they were bidding on, and actually, because they had that inside information on what their competitors bid, they outbid them, and they actually got all these accounts. They got all these extra sites. Well, my buddy, he had to oversee these sites, so they called him in and they said, we got all these sites now that we got to do. You're going to have to run all these. This is what the situation is. This was what the budget is. And my buddy, he looked at the numbers. He said, boy, these numbers aren't going to work. He said, there's not enough, we don't have enough trucks. We don't have enough equipment to set this up. And the higher ups, they just kind of shook their head and they said, no, that's not how it works. He said they pulled all the sheets and they showed him all the numbers. He said, see this all here, this payroll, all these are all the people that work on your sites right here. He said, what you're going to do is you're going to go in and you're going to cut $1 an hour from everybody that works in all these sites. And these were multiple sites, and you're talking the late 70s, early 80s. $1 an hour that was a lot of money. And they told him, and then that'll give you enough money in your budget where you can go out and buy the trucks that you need and get the other stuff that you need. So he had to do that. He had to go through and cut everybody's pay $1 an hour. Well, you can imagine how well that went. And it wasn't because, the economy was bad or anything was like that. It's basically so the company could go buy trucks. And that's just business. That's just business. That's just how it goes. That's how that's looked at. And, there's an old saying that goes, when a poor man steals from you, it's violence. When a rich man steals from you, it's business. And this gets into my second story. Years ago, was going to a church group, and the head of this church group, he came right out one day when we were having this discussion in this church group. He said, I'm a businessman. He said, when I'm at work, when I punch in, when I'm on the clock, I'm a taker. That's what I do. I take money from the customers. I take as much as I can from the employees. When I punch in, I'm not the same guy that is leading the church group, basically. And that's, looking after your own interests. But there's this negative connotation with preppers that because we put up a little extra, we look ahead, we're somehow bad. And that's not true at all. And I think a lot of that is what holds people back from preparing. And because when it all comes down to it, if bad things happen, pretty much everybody is going to look after their own interests. Governments, businesses, groups, they're all going to act in their own, you know, preservation, self-preservation, self-interest before anything else. And that's not a bad thing. That's just how things work in a bad event. But I wanted to share those two stories because I think that they're good dad advice. You got to look after your own interest first, and your own close circle of people that are around you. That you associate with and that are your family members and stuff. You need to look after your own interests first, before you try to branch out. And like I said, there's a lot of negative connotations with that. People think that that's selfish, but that's actually how everything else in the world pretty much works. So anyways, Modern Refugee, I appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys got a little information, a little entertainment out of this video here, and gives you something to think about. And don't let people call you names because you're a prepper, because you're actually trying to make the world a better place by taking care of yourself first, and charity always begins at home. Anyway, you guys take care.